Hello everyone and welcome back. I hope you're doing well because today we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was once again directed by James Gunn in what may be his final MCU film at Marvel, and is about the Guardians going on one more space-trotting adventure to save a dear member of the group. Now, if you haven't been around for a while and you don't know my opinion on the Guardians of the Galaxy films, I don't love them. Surprisingly enough. I really want to and I just never have. I've always thought they were just fun movies. So what did I think of Guardians 3? Unfortunately, as much as I'd love to jump on the train of this is gonna save the MCU, I don't think it is. And I'm nowhere close to the ridiculous people that are suggesting that this is the best Marvel film of all time. If you enjoyed this movie, that's great. I'm so happy for you. I'm really jealous of you. I really wish I could be you and just ride this fun train, but unfortunately I just didn't gel with it. For me, it's really a huge mixed bag. I'm going to avoid spoilers here, although I am going to allude to a few things, so if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to make it very clear what it is I'm talking about, and if you have, it'll be just clear enough that you'll know what I'm referencing. First off, I think the most recent Avengers films, that being Infinity War and Endgame, kinda screwed this movie because they took what was kind of this cohesive narrative with 1 and 2 and just said, okay, Gamora, gone. New Gamora. We're gonna just change whatever the hell we want. We're gonna make Peter Quill hit Thanos, even though it was stupid. We're gonna change things. And James Gunn was seemingly gone, but then he's back, and now he is doing a third film, and he still cares about these characters, but they kind of changed things and forced his hand. So already, it's a bit messy with the cohesiveness. This is now not a trilogy where you can just throw on 1, 2, and 3 and binge them. I mean, you can, but you do want the context of Infinity War and Endgame, otherwise it's like, what happened? What have I missed? As far as the cast go, they are great as always. Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, everybody here is great. Especially Bradley Cooper as Rocket here. Everyone has been talking about how this is his movie, and that is definitely the case. I could be wrong, but coming fresh off of this, I do think that this might be the best the humour has ever been in these movies. They found the perfect balance this time around where they weren't ruining the more dramatic moments of the film. And as far as my list of pros for this movie goes, that's almost it. I have a lot of issues with this movie. Let's start with what's usually fantastic, the music. It's okay, but usually, I mean, the first and second film just knocked that out of the park. Everything just gelled so well and fit everything so right, where here it just feels a little out of place half the time. With the Beastie Boys, it just doesn't really seem like this is Guardians. The villain for this film, the High Evolutionary, who we've been teased with multiple times over the course of the previous films, is here and presents some interesting ideas at the beginning before it eventually devolves into just, I'm another guy that yells and screams and gets really angry, and that's it. Nothing compared to what Kurt Russell brought to the table in the last film. There's a lot of flashbacks in this film alluding to and explaining Rocket's backstory, which I asked for in a previous review, but I want to backpedal on my words here, because really, no matter what they try to do, it can never live up to the expectation of what you had or thought it was in your head. Although this was a good attempt, I think it was better me not knowing exactly how Rocket came to be. I think I prefer the line he said in the previous film where he didn't ask to be torn apart and put back together again. That just sounds like it was way worse than what we've seen. And so I felt a little let down with Rocket's backstory, and you might think, well, how can you say that? It was horrifying, it was horrible. I felt like it was very forced, very controlled. I felt Disney in it, and not just James Gunn's vision, although at the same time I think it is. And I'm quite conflicted on it, because while it is told right, written well, the emotion feels false. It feels forced to me. It feels like they are trying to make you cry rather than it just coming naturally. A good cue that I always read was, to make your audience cry, don't have the characters cry, have them trying not to cry. That makes your audience cry. The flashbacks at first make it seem like Rocket is just thinking back on what happened, but later on they end up becoming like a plot device and are just stitched between the film whenever they didn't know how to cut to a different storyline. And where these flashbacks are placed, it ultimately ends up feeling a bit like a mess. The corridor fight sequence that you might have heard people talk about, it's cool, but it's nothing new or special. And I think that's what I was really taken back with this whole movie. I really thought James Gunn, like the last couple of movies, is going to add another fresh spin and twist to this. But it felt like every superhero trope we've ever seen before has just come together in this amalgamation of a film. And not all of those tropes are bad, but watching the hallway fight sequence, I was like, I've seen 6 or 7 of these before, and it is cool, but can we see something different? An example of what I'm talking about is there's a lot of death fake outs. There's at least 3 I can think of off the top of my head, which again, I won't spoil or give away. But for the first time, I didn't feel a single thing when they tried to do a character death. I'm watching going, well, that's cheap. They're obviously not going to kill a character that way. Not an ounce of doubt in my mind. So instead of them being potentially dramatic moments, they felt like cheap attempts to pull on my heartstrings. And for the first time, I just wasn't falling for it. When you do it enough times in like 26 or so movies, it starts to lose its effect. Adam Warlock's in the film, and I feel like he's just another problem altogether. He just does not add anything to this film. There's nothing he has to really do with the plot that's super important other than the opening, but there is other ways you could have gone about writing that opening to start the film and get it going. Adam Warlock felt like that was more an obligation on Marvel's part to be like, James Gunn, put him in. This is the first Marvel film to have an F-bomb in it, and I left the theater and I completely missed it. Look, I live in Australia, right? Swearing is like our second language here. And I cuss way more than I should in my everyday life. So when I left the theater and I completely missed it, and I had to talk to someone to have them tell me where it was, I thought back and remembered, and it just kind of seems like it was wasted in retrospect. I thought Marvel's first F-bomb might be saved for something a little bit bigger than that, or something really, really funny. But it's kind of a mid-sentence, lower on the scale joke that was maybe just funny on the day and they decided to keep it in, when really I don't think it was necessary or warrants the use. Coming from an Australian who drops the F-bomb in every second sentence. The saving of all the kids and animals felt very reminiscent of Thor 4, and it reminded me of how many of these space adventures and Marvel movies that we've had, and I just don't know. I guess I feel tired with it all. Like the superhero fatigue that I was talking about in Shazam! Fury of the Gods, that review's up if you haven't seen it. Feel free to check it out. Like there, I said it's not that people are fatigued with the superhero genre. I love the Batman. It's great. But it's that we're fatigued with this formula for creating superhero films. And this felt like such a formulaic Marvel film. Like, instead of trying something different, like some of the previous films have done, they've had a swing and most of them have missed, but at least they're trying. This return to formula seems to be everyone's, oh my god, Marvel's great again, and it's just going to change everything, and this is the best Marvel film of all time. And I'm not there anymore. I'm only putting this movie under such heavy scrutiny because these movies have been so good. These Guardians of the Galaxy films are held in such high regard, and if they're going to be held like that, then I'm going to have high expectations. And I know I've just gone con. It's only because I just keep hearing from everybody around me how bloody fantastic this is, and I think I'm just upset and jealous that I don't love it too. Maybe I am being too harsh. It's not a bad movie by any means. It just fell into all the familiar things that I felt like I'd already seen before. This movie, if it had come out 10 years ago, would have been phenomenal, but we're in an age now where we've got that many superhero movies that if you want to keep pumping out more, you've got to try and do something different. Ultimately, you're probably really going to enjoy it, and it should probably be graded something higher than what I'm about to give it, but like I did with Guardians 1 and Guardians 2, I'm going to be known as the guy that just gives out the same grade for every movie. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is going to get a 7 out of 10 from me, and it's on the lower side. In terms of which one I like the most, I like the second one the most. The more personal conflict with Peter and his father, as well as all the things they did with Yondu and Rocket. were just so much richer there for me. Then the first movie, then this third one. So even though they're all 7s, that's where they rank for me. And 7's not just above average, it's good. They are good movies. I just wanted great. I feel like I just had a huge rant, and I feel exhausted. I feel bad because I like James Gunn, and I like his movies. I just want to love them. I want something just better. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I got a bit of OCD. I know that things can always be better, and when I can see so much potential not being utilized, oh, it hurts me. Ultimately, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it is a good time, it is a good watch, the visual effects are incredible, and like I said, I think this is probably the best the comedy has ever been, and it's balanced with the dramatic moments that are also about the best that it's ever been. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, have you guys seen it? What did you think? Did you think it was life-changing? You know, way more positive than what I'm giving you? At least I'm giving you a very unique opinion. As always, if you've made it through to the end of the video, you're a bloody legend, and hopefully I'll catch you next time when I'm talking about a movie that's a little more fast. Oh yeah, we're talking about it. Let's go.